Okay, you guys, today we are reading trippy Reddit stories. So, psychedelics, LSD, there's some salvia ones, some DMT. We're just reading whatever we find having to do with psychedelic trips, okay? I'm very excited to get into these because I love talking about trips. I love reading people's stories. I love hearing the experiences. A lot of these actually, like, I've experienced a lot of the same things, which is really interesting. And I would love to hear your guys' trips down below. But, anyways, let's get into these stories. Okay, you guys, the first story comes from the subreddit r/LSD from the user Unhappy Search 5631. The title is Did LSD with my girlfriend, one tab each, 190 UGIG. Trip turned horrific. So I read like the first sentences of these and it sounded kind of spooky. So let's get into it. Yesterday, I did LSD, one tab each with my girlfriend. She has a history of mental health struggles, past trauma, emotional instability, and past self harm, and I knew that going in. Okay, so from my experience, that's definitely a lot because you kind of have to be in a decent headspace. From my experience with these types of psychedelics is they will bring everything to the surface that like you haven't talked about so or thought about. We both thought this trip might help her. She said it could be healing. That's true. I feel like I've healed a lot from psychedelics and I don't think you should avoid them, but just know that like things will come up. First, we started tripping at home, but she wanted to go more into open because at house she was feeling it was too much. So I agreed with her to go to the forest. Not a good idea. She thought it would be peaceful, grounding. I did not expect what actually happened. Okay, so that's interesting because I understand what they're talking about with the house feeling too much because you kind of start to feel closed in, and it is really nice to be on these psychedelics and be outside. However, I did go to a forest while I was on psychedelics and I also had a bad trip because for some reason it felt like the trees were like making fun of me and I was just feeling very unsupported. And I've been wanting to do psychedelics in that forest for like years and I thought it would be magical and I had a really bad time. So that's interesting. Okay, so at first it was fine. Visuals were soft, colors were warm, the trees felt alive, typical come up. But a couple hours in, her energy shifted hard. She started saying things like, I want to get lost, and not in a playful way, in a serious, scary way, like she wanted the forest to consume her. Yeah, that definitely sounds like her emotions were just like taking over, and it's definitely hard to be on psychedelics with somebody having a bad trip because you have to kind of like you have to be so strong and trying to like basically help them and support them, otherwise you'll get sucked into their bad trip and then yours will start to turn bad. Then it got worse. She started talking about demons. Okay, no, that's where I would draw the line. Like if someone started talking about demons, I would get really fucking scared. That they were in her skin, that she could feel them, and I swear to God, her whole aura felt demonic. I've never felt anything like that on LSD. Her presence was terrifying. It felt like something had taken over her. That's really scary because I have felt the same thing before. Um, Maybe I'll do a story time on this, but last summer I did psychedelics with this friend, and I swear to God, he was a demon. We could see his like true form and just like the intentions and like the hate in his eyes, and I haven't talked to him since because it was just like you can feel things when you're on these psychedelics. You can feel people's intentions, their emotions, and I believe him when he says like it felt like something took over her, because I feel like also when you're in these altered states, I personally believe that you're more susceptible to entities taking over your body. Okay, so she began talking about hurting herself. Then she tried to. She wanted to burn herself, cut herself right there in the forest. Oh my God, that would literally send me into a spiral because it's like when you're on these psychedelics, you're kind of struggling to grapple with what's real and what's not, because part of you is thinking, okay, I have to like help this person because they're on a drug right now, and this they're not thinking logically, but at the same time you're also seeing how they truly feel. And so you're trying to bring them back into like society and reality, but they're not in that. So it's really hard and it's really scary when these things start happening. I was tripping too, one full tab, and suddenly I had to pull myself out of my own mind and become the one keeping her safe. I had to stop her physically. I had to talk her down. We were also lost. There was no path. I didn't know where we were, and time felt like it didn't exist. This literally sounds like the worst nightmare that you could ever have on psychedelics. This is crazy. Okay. But somehow I don't even know how I kept my shit together and got us out. I brought us back to safety somehow. When we got home, I thought it was over, but she started spiraling again, still talking about hurting herself, still overwhelmed. I realized this wasn't the trip doing this to her, it was her trauma surfacing and swallowing her whole. That night showed me the brutal truth. We thought this trip would help her, but it tore her open, something neither of us were ready for, and I realized I've been trying to hold someone whose pain is far deeper than I can handle. Yeah, that's really like hard because you almost see that it's like it's not even them, it's their pain and their trauma controlling them. And I've definitely been around people on these psychedelics that are like this where they have just so much that like you're not even dealing with them, you're dealing with like everything that they've gone through, and it's just a lot. Like, it's really hard to deal with. She's now looking to get professional help, which I'm grateful for. She knows something serious broke up in her during the trip, but for me, I'm still trying to process all of it. Being lost in the forest, on acid, holding someone back from self-harm while they're talking about demons and wanting to disappear. That's not something I'll forget. Okay, yeah, so that story was definitely heavy. I feel like though it sounds like it did help her, although it ended up hurting her boyfriend in the process. Like, she did realize that she needed a lot of therapy and help probably, but now her boyfriend is probably traumatized by witnessing that. And it's not that he just witnessed someone going through something, he felt probably everything that she was feeling, because when you're on those psychedelics, it's like you can see, I can't even explain it, like you can see through people, you can feel everything, you can look into their eyes and just like see their true souls. And so he probably really felt like traumatized from that. Like, that was a freaking dark one. Okay, so this next one is from r/LSD. Somebody named Mushroom Worm said, "Give me your craziest acid trip stories," and someone commented. So this is from Mountain Hearing 502, 9 months ago. They said, "About 6 months ago, I did acid for the first time, 150 micrograms, and I had the best 6 hours of my life. Me and my boyfriend had planned to each take one tab each at separate times on different days. Okay. I took my take around 6 a.m. and the LSD had kicked in about 6:45. I was running outside in the rain, dancing to music. I even started crying because of how happy I was. I've definitely experienced that. Once the acid wore off at around 1 p.m., my boyfriend decided to take one of the two remaining tabs. By this time, the LSD had fully worn off and I was feeling back to normal, so I decided to take another tab. Big mistake. Okay, I've done this before too. It is not smart. Do not take multiple because you'll have a mental fucking breakdown. The acid started kicking in again around 45 minutes to an hour later, and everything seemed to be going fine for the both of us. We met up with some friends who were doing ketamine and had a walk around the beach. I started noticing my visuals were much more intense than before, and the paranoia began to set in. I vividly remember walking into a shopping mall and not even being able to see straight since my visuals were so intense. I started hearing demon like laughs, and different shapes and patterns were taking over my view. Everyone's face as I looked out seemed warped and alien like. I felt like I was in a completely different dimension and nothing made sense. My paranoia was so bad I started bawling my eyes out, begging for the trip to be over, and my friends managed to sit me down on a bench. By that time, the acid was peaking, and I genuinely thought I was going to die. I closed my eyes and laid down to try and calm myself, but it just made everything worse. I started believing I was interacting with God, so I closed my eyes again and I asked Him to just kill me. Everything went white, and I couldn't see or hear anything other than a loud buzzing noise, like when your eyes ring. Okay, I've never had that happen. I honestly can't really remember much, but my friends later told me I started screaming that I was going to hell. I managed to make it home safe with my boyfriend, where we laid in bed, staring at each other for 3 hours until the acid fully wore off. It was a very spiritual experience, but also one of the most terrifying things I've ever experienced. My heart still beats fast when I talk about this trip, like some kind of PTSD. That's crazy because that sounds like my first trip because I had the same thing happen where it started off really good. Then I took too much and then I started like tripping out. I realized like the answer to everything and then I kept like saying things on a loop over and over again. And then I remember I was tripping so bad that I thought I was dying and everything turned white. And then I was with my boyfriend in a bed too and then it wore off. Like that's crazy how accurate that is to my like first experience. But them saying that everything went white and you thought you were dying, like it's actually crazy how your mind convinces you that you're literally dying. And it's just an ego death. Like, that's the thing that a lot of people don't know or understand about these psychedelics. Like, it happens with ayahuasca too and other ones, but the drugs make you feel like you're dying because they're breaking down your ego, and then when you come out of it, you're supposed to kind of, not immediately, but you are supposed to feel changed like after the trip, like maybe months or years to come. You're supposed to have your ego kind of dissolved. And it doesn't feel fucking good. Like it does feel like you're dying. It feels like everything's falling apart. You end up not relating to the same people like you used to. Maybe you want to quit your job, but like it's all part of like the bigger plan of getting you closer to who you are. And most people aren't ready for that. You know what I mean? Like it's for people that like really want um to have like their world shaken up. It's not just something that fun that you do with your friends. And I don't know how I don't know how that there's people out there that are just doing shrooms for fun, because every time I've done these psychedelics, it's like a huge wake up call experience, and that's why I haven't done it in a while, because I don't think I'm ready to have another like, because it's not just one trip. It affects every part of your life because you don't feel like the same anymore and you feel like you need to make changes based off of your trip, and then you just don't feel like you can fit into your life. You feel like a fraud, and if you don't make these changes, you're like you can't fit into your own life. So it's a lot. Um let's move on to the next one. Okay, I briefly read this one and this one's really sweet, and I think this one highlights why I am a strong believer in that people should do these psychedelics, okay? So, it's from Fredo on Reddit. So 9 months ago, this is also a comment of on the last one. So it says my acid trip began in July. I dropped 1 microgram. I lost myself in the cosmic void for an indefinite amount of time. I can't recall seeing any fractals or having CEVs. I don't know what that is. I like to trip in silent darkness, so maybe that was it. That sounds absolutely terrifying, but it was so damn peaceful. The peak ended in the first hours of the morning. I had gotten back to my body by that time and decided to go into my garden to watch the sunrise. I sit on a plastic chair for hours doing nothing other than watching the world around me, still kind of twisted from the acid. I felt in that moment that God was seeing the magnificence of his creations through my eyes. I was nothing other than an empty vessel experiencing the Almighty's glory. That is so like that's the point. That's how it's supposed to make you feel. It's supposed to make you realize that like you are a creation of God and you're experiencing your own creation, and it's supposed to make you feel like everything's magical. Okay, my crown chakra was fully opened. I had never experienced anything even similar in my whole life. I also decided to stop smoking cigs in that moment. I used to smoke a pack a day at the very least. I went to grab one instinctively, but looking at the pack, I realized how stupid my addiction was. My soul is way stronger than my mind and my body, and letting them control my life is nonsense. I still keep that almost finished pack on my nightstand to remind myself that of the blissful morning and the promise I made to myself. Such a life-changing experience. That's amazing, and this is why these psychedelics are important, because they have been proven to help people with depression, anxiety, addictions. My personal experience is I did shrooms a couple summers ago, and the next day I quit vaping. And I did quit for an entire year until my brother passed away. And then I started again. I have quit since that happened. But the point is that I made a pact with myself just like this person did when I was on the shrooms. I realized like I can do this just because I want to and I don't want to harm my body anymore. And once I made that pact with myself, I don't know how to explain it. It was really easy to just quit. And the fact that this person like had that realization, that's why these psychedelics are so helpful and are so important. And when you do have a good trip, it can be like very, very helpful and amazing, especially if you're dealing with addictions or mental health issues. Oh my god, this one sounds like too much. So, okay, so it's posted 9 months ago, same comment section, called ASAP Trippy. They said, I took 9 tabs. 9 tabs? Can that not kill you? Like, I feel like at that point, I feel like that might mess up your brain. But, anyways, at some point, I found myself in the bathtub. That's, I don't know, that scares me. In the bathtub, while Don't Worry, Be Happy was playing, when I focused on my senses, warm water, music, my skin, my consciousness got pulled out of my body. I experienced an incredible pulsating sensation, and I realized it was the same force I felt when my mother hugged me as a child or when sunlight touches my face. I even found it resonating in that beautiful song that was playing. That is so cute. I interpreted this force as life slash God. You know what I mean. It was sacred, and it reminded me with a demanding clarity that life itself is sacred. Then and there in my bathtub, I learned that I want to have kids, and I swore to take care of my elders. This happened 2 years ago, still feel the same way. See, that is like truly amazing. It makes you, and you can feel these things through meditation, except it does take a lot of practice. The good thing about these psychedelics is it can make you feel what meditation will make you feel like, but in like an instant. And so it is a gamble because you could have a bad trip, you could have a really beautiful trip, and that's just something to remember when if you're going to take these psychedelics. Okay, you guys, for this last story, this one sounds really juicy. So it's from r slash true off my chest 1 year ago by Eternally Pink. The title: I caught my boyfriend while I was on acid and I think it ruined my brain. This one sounds intense. Okay. I, 18 female, started dating Jason, 18 male, almost 2 years ago. We had some breakups after we hit the year mark, but we have been together for majority of the last 2 years. He is a heavy acid user. He does a tab a week. Okay, guys, there has to be a point where it's like you're doing too much. Like, this is too much. That's going to ruin your brain at some point. Okay. And he has been doing this for the past 6 months. I told him I was worried about how this could affect his brain, and he said it won't and that it helps him. I have done shrooms before, but never acid. I've always said I want to wait until my brain is fully developed. This girl's smart, okay? I definitely did it before I was 18. I don't know if it fucked up my brain. I do feel like it helped me grow as a person, but she's still smart for thinking that. I have a 4.0 GPA and I plan on going to law school and becoming a lawyer. I did acid for the first time with him 3 weeks ago. It was a pretty good trip. I enjoyed it. We decided to trip again 2 days ago and we did, but something happened. For context, Jason became friends with a girl he previously had a crush on while we weren't together. Okay. They hung out in a group, but nothing happened. Since we've been back together, I told him I'm insecure with him snapping this girl. I just had a bad feeling about her. He said he's lonely and wants friends, so he continued. Okay. The trip 2 days ago was actually amazing for the first part. Him and I bonded, and I felt very connected to him. While we were 8 hours deep into our trip and coming down, I looked at his phone and my heart dropped. I saw that he had secretly gone to that girl's house a few days before when he had lied and told me he was at Dairy Queen with one of his guy friends. I also saw that he was saving her selfies in the chat, even after I had expressed to him that them talking made me feel insecure. Who knows what happened while they were together? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Okay, so this is less about a trip and more about him cheating, but it's still juicy. I ran into the storage room with his phone and fell onto the floor sobbing. I was still tripping and also very high off of weed, and I just started screaming. I was screaming that I couldn't believe he had done this to me, that he didn't care about me. He was just on the floor next to me with his hands in his head, saying he was sorry. He didn't even excuse it. I felt like I was being stabbed, like I was going to die right there on the floor. I have never felt the pain I felt right there. I really thought I was going to marry this man, that he was my soulmate. That's so sad. I ran back into the main room to get away from him, and I kept looking at the evidence on his phone in disbelief. I threw his phone against the wall and fell onto the floor, hitting myself. Oh my god, this is getting dark. I hit myself so hard that I'm currently covered with bruises on my legs. Jason tackled me to get me to stop. I felt like I was going crazy. I almost punched him in the face. I was so mad, hurt, betrayed, confused. And it was all multiplied because of my state of mind. I can't say what else I did because it all feels blurry, but I know I was acting crazy. I drove home an hour or two later and I was screaming, crying the entire 45-minute drive. I had never felt this kind of pain before. Okay, so don't drive after taking acid. Basically, since this happened, I have felt different. I think being on acid while finding this out changed my brain or does something to it. I know it's normal for me to feel depressed right now, but this is more. I feel dead. I'm getting dopamine from nothing. I don't even feel sad. I barely cried or thought about what I found out. I just feel empty. Okay, I think she's just depressed, and that's definitely what that feels like. Um, I really don't know how to describe it. I have had no appetite. Everything exhausts me. I don't want to watch TV, read, do my makeup, tan, talk to anyone, play video games, listen to music, things I always love doing. That's just depression. It's not the acid. Unfortunately, when you get cheated on, it does make you want to stop eating. You don't even choose it. You just have no hunger. Um, Him and I didn't even break up, but I have barely wanted to talk to him. What? You didn't break up with him? Okay. I'll get bursts of feeling sad about what happened, but I mostly feel empty. I don't really feel like I have the will to live anymore, or the will to do anything for that matter. I do keep remembering the moment I found out and some snippets of me acting absolutely crazy. I will update if it goes away with time, but I'm worried I made a big mistake taking that tab. Update. He broke up with me over text. Oh my god. This poor girl, like, I feel so bad for her. He broke up with her. He broke up with me over text. I feel so heartbroken. I thought I meant more to him, but I agree with most comments that he was not a good influence. That is so sad. Oh my god, that one was really fucked up. Well, those are all the stories I have for you guys today. Let me know down below if you guys have ever done psychedelics and if you've ever had any good trips, any bad trips, anything at all. I would love to hear about it. I love talking about trip stories. I have so many. If you want to hear like a full story time about one of my trips or all of them, definitely let me know because I have a lot of fucked up stories. I have a lot of cool stories and I would love to share them with you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Sydney, and if you like my vibe, make sure you subscribe and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!